It was my first year at university, and I had just finished unpacking my belongings into my dorm room. My family had just left, and I was trying to settle in when later that day my roommate finally arrived. Right from the start, I could tell there was something off about him. His name was Dave, and the moment I introduced myself, I realized this guy was the most socially awkward person I'd ever met. I extended my hand, saying, "Hi, I'm Dan." He stared at my hand like he didn't know what to do with it, then laughed awkwardly before giving me the limpest handshake ever. I had to ask for his name because he didn't even bother to tell me. When he said Dave, I tried to make small talk. But he responded with only yes or no, occasionally letting out a weird, uncomfortable laugh. Within minutes, we were both sitting in our beds, each on our laptops, not speaking. I was already thinking about asking for a new roommate. Anyone would be better than Dave. I thought, at first, I figured he was just socially awkward. But soon I realized there was more to it than that. I met some other guys on our floor, and they seemed pretty cool. That was a relief. When I returned to our room later that night, I found Dave still in the exact same position as when I left. I said, "What's up, Dave?" But he didn't respond. Not that I was surprised. It was about 9:30 p.m. and I didn't have anything to do, so I turned off the lamp on my side of the room and went to bed. Sleep didn't come easily, though, as David was in his laptop until about 3 a.m. When he finally closed his laptop, I fell asleep pretty quickly, but I woke up within the hour. The blinds in our room were open, and the moonlight flooded the room, making everything visible, including Dave, who was sitting on the edge of his bed, staring at me. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, and asked, "Dave, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered, "Sorry," and quickly laid down. The next morning, I woke up to find Dave had already left the room. It felt like the first time he'd left since we moved in. It was Saturday, the first weekend of the year, and orientation was in full swing with all sort of campus festivities. During the orientation, as our group walked past the school gardens, I overheard a couple students ahead of me whispering. I followed their gaze and saw Dave. He was sitting in dirt behind some bushes, rubbing the bark of a tree with his hand. The orientation leader didn't notice, but if she did, I'm sure she would say something. I didn't say anything either, just walked by, trying to pretend I didn't know him. Later, I mentioned to two other students that he was my roommate, hoping to break the ice and make some friends. They gave me a look of sympathy and apologized. None of us were sure if it was okay to laugh, but we did anyway. That night, I'd made plans to hang out with those guys. When I got back to the dorm, I found out that the school has arranged for me to get a new roommate. Things were finally looking up. I left the room to meet with my new friends, and when I returned later that night, Dave was sitting in the desk chair, facing the door. I greeted with him, "Oh yeah, oh hey, what's up?" He replied with a flat nothing, in a tone that sent chills down my spine. I sat on my bed and opened my laptop, realizing I had forgotten to lock it. Then I noticed something strange. My emails were open, including ones I hadn't read, and several of my folders had been accessed. It was clear that Dave had been snooping through my laptop. When I confronted him about asking, "Did you go through my stuff?" he immediately responded, "No." No came so quickly that I knew he was lying. I decided to not press the issue, but I was done with this guy. As I was getting ready for bed, I noticed my clothes had been moved around. I didn't say anything, knowing I'd be out of there by the next day. That night, I woke up to the sound of a zipper. I looked over and saw Dave on the floor, going through my bag. This time, I turned the lamp and confronted him. He stammered, "I think you have my toothbrush on your day," which was the closest thing to an excuse he could come up with. I knew he was lying, but something about him made me uneasy, so I decided not to feel it. The next day, I moved into a new room in the same building. My new roommate seemed very normal. He wasn't the most outgoing person, but he was miles better than Dave. We had decent conversation before turning off the lamps and going to bed. But for the third night in a row, I woke up at some odd hour to a strange noise. It was a weird clicking sound, not constant, but frequent enough to be unnerving. I got up, hoping it was something innocent, like a creaky floorboard or a mouse. But as I scooped the room, I realized the sound was coming from outside the door. The nightlight in the common area was always on, so when I looked through the peephole, I see the top of someone's head standing on the other side of the door. They were looking down, so I couldn't see their face, but I had sinking feeling. It was the first week of my freshman year at the University of Iowa, and I was finally starting to feel comfortable with my roommate. He was dead set on rushing a fraternity, and would rush week starting soon. He was eager to hit the frat parties that were already kicking off. Not wanting to go alone, he asked me to join with him. Though I had no interest in joining a frat, I figured attending a few parties wouldn't hurt. Iowa was known for its party scene. Thursday night, we decided to head for a lesser-known frat house. My roommate's logic was that if the top frats didn't beat him, he'd have a breakup. The house was in the downtown part of downtown, far from campus. When we arrived, it didn't look like much. Just a shabby house on a corner. But the blasting music and cars parked everywhere made it clear this was the place. We knocked on the door and were greeted by a grateful for that. That terrifying night was my introduction to the darker side of college life. But the horror didn't end there. Fast forward to my sophomore year. I had a single dorm room tucked away in a secluded corner of the floor. It was perfect, private enough to study and sleep, but still close to my friends. A few weeks into the semester, I was studying for biology exam when I heard a faint tapping on my door. It was so light that I almost didn't notice it. I called out, "Come in," but no one entered. When I opened the door, no one was there. I chalked it with someone messing with me and went back to studying. The next night, just after turning off my lamp to go to sleep, the tapping returned, only louder. I called out again, but the knocking stopped, and still no one answered. I jumped out of the bed and flung the open door. Once again, no one was there. I checked down the hall, but it was empty. The next morning I asked around, but no one admitted to pranking me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That night I woke up to loud knocking, even louder than before. This time I hesitated to open the door, but finally I worked up with the courage. As expected, no one was there, but this time I sprinted down the corridor and caught the glimpse of someone disappearing around the far corner of the hallway. I ran after them and saw a door closing at the end of the hall. It wasn't a dorm room, it was a bathroom. Determined to comfort whoever was messing with me, I burst into the bathroom. The light was off, so I turned it on. The room seemed empty at first, but then I noticed that both the stalls were closed. I got on my hands and knees to check under the stalls, and that's when I saw them. Two heavy black boots peeking out from under the doors. I took a deep breath and pushed the stall door open. Inside, I found the boots, but no person. Then I heard a low, eerie giggle. It wasn't a laugh of a child or woman, but something much worse. An old ranch man. Suddenly, all my confidence drained away. I bolted off the bathroom, ran back to my room, and locked the door. I jumped into bed and started fixing everyone I knew. But of course, they were all asleep. The knocking came one last time that night, but I ignored it until it finally stopped after I felt them forever. The next day, I asked everyone on the floor about it, but no one had heard. I asked everyone on the floor about it, but no one had heard any knocking, and everyone swore they weren't the ones pranking me. To this day, I don't know who or what was behind those knocks, but I'll never forget the booze or what horrifying laugh.